Thank you.
Oh, there we go.
I'm, again, for the recording, I am not gaveling us into session because we did that around noon for the start of our goal setting retreat and executive session to follow that. That executive session lasted approximately 42 minutes. No action was taken. It was involving the evaluation of a public employee as a completion of our superintendent's evaluation. So we will be returning to the meeting at this point and turning to Ms. Maccaro for the land acknowledgement.
Okay. Let's pull it up here. South Whitby School District would like to begin by acknowledging that we gather on the ancestral homelands originally known as Shakolche and Lushootseed, the coastal Salish peoples on the lands of the Lower Skagit, Tulalip, Swinomish, Snohomish, Stillaguamish, and Suquamish, who have lived in the Salish Sea Basin since time immemorial and have hunted, fished, gathered, and taken care of these lands. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and we honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. Please join me in expressing our deepest respect and gratitude to the Indigenous people of this territory and for their enduring care and protection of the land in which we currently occupy and share through the Treaty of Point Elliott, signed by 82 tribes in Mukilteo on January 22nd, 1855.
Thank you very much. I'd like to follow that up with an acknowledgement that we are in a new location and give our thanks to Snow Isle Library System and the Langley Library for allowing us to use this space while the power is out at our campuses for bond construction. Very exciting that we're able to do so much work during the summer so we can minimize the impact to our teachers and educators and learners as best as we can. Just a reminder that this is a workshop meeting, so we invite and look for participation from the community on topics on the agenda. We will be moving into that agenda now. First of all, we have a presentation on school improvement plans and reducing restraint and isolation update. I'll turn it over to Dr. Clifford first.
Okay, well, we are going to review. We had an opportunity to hear from our teams at the beginning of our retreat as part of our goal setting. What we committed to this year, because there was so much going on at the end of the year, is just to share new data. And also because other workshops addressed a lot of the information, such as the surveys at the last workshop. So I'm looking forward to being able to celebrate and highlight the great work that each of our leaders have done, and our teams and our school staff. So I'm going to hand it over, and we're going to start the same order. We're going to start at the youngest level to the high school level, and then back to the middle school level. And at the very end, we'll review the reducing restraint and isolation grant. So I'm going to hand it over to Principal Richards and Ms. Coda.
Thank you so much. I want to start with just saying a couple things about the photos here. At an elementary school, we're really all about that whole child and helping introduce children to what they're passionate about and what they love, and seeing how learning connects to those things. On the screen, you'll see our musical in the middle, our Character Matters, which is the SEL focus. On the right top, one of our amazing student teachers teaching solar drag racing and velocity and geometry and algebraic ideas are starting to form. On the bottom, where you see the C, it says C is from our fifth grade students who created this gorgeous wool felted panels from our farm, forest, and sea as a gift, as a legacy gift to the school. Next to that, you'll see students doing data collection, working with Soundwater Steward scientists around the beaches at Fort Casey. And finally, in the far right corner, you see one of our amazing teachers representing the relationships and the love and the care that they engage in with their students. Before we jump into the data, I would like to say a big thank you to Dr. Clifford. I'm so grateful for you and having had this year to work with you. I appreciate so much that you have recognized the needs of the elementary school in ways that have not been recognized in the last number of years. We have been a single administrator with no school counselor, no dedicated special education director. It's been challenging. And it's hard for me in some ways to to know that we're judged in many ways on some of the data that we're going to be showing tonight. And I hope you all can see that there's more to our school than that, and that we are on a trajectory under the leadership of Ms. Coda and Ms. Young, having staffing that meets the needs of our school and our students. And I look forward to seeing the growth that's going to happen academically. Just felt I need to say that. Thank you. Next slide, please. This is our iReady math diagnostic. All students except for kindergarten in the fall engage in this. This is the math diagnostic. You can see on the far right is our fall of 2025, and on the left is our spring of 2026. This is an assessment that our students have become used to taking. They understand the format. And so we can see those scores reflected, the nice growth that we're seeing at our tier 1 from 56 up to 56% from 17%. And we're really pleased to see that growth. Next slide, please. Next, we see this broken down into the domains of mathematics, numbers and operations. Nice growth in all of those areas. Geometry, a little more, I should say not as much time. It's something that comes towards the end. The 5th grade has a little more time with that work, but continuing to see where we need to put our focus as we look at those domains. Kristen, do you want to talk? You talk much more eloquently than I do about that.
So this annual typical growth, our progress towards it, this is a measure that we can use year after year, even though our cohorts change, to track progress and see how students are meeting those individualized typical growth goals that are set for them. That means that if a student is starting below the school year, we know that if they're well below, so 2 grades or more, that they may not get to grade level by the end of the year. And so they have an annual typical growth that we're hoping that they achieve. And this is one way to measure that across our students. And so seeing that 100% is right where we want to be. And so, of course, we'd always like to see more. In some instances, you see like it can be a lot more than 100%, but it is something to know that 100% is right where we want to be.
Next slide, please. Again, this is our math, looking by grade level. It's a little small, but I guess we can't really help that with our recording, can we? You can see on the left are the grade bands. Again, kindergarten only takes this assessment in the spring. I love to see, though, the strength that we're seeing in our kindergarten numbers. And then again, by grade level. We can track this by cohort as well, and we've been looking at that data. Next slide, please. Next, we're looking at our iReady reading diagnostic. Again, fall on the right, spring of 2026 on the left. Similar growth in those areas, reducing our tier 3. Tier 2 has stayed fairly steady, and then increasing our tier 1 from 31% to 56%. Next slide, please. Again, breaking this down, we can see those areas of great growth in our phonics, and our Amplify curriculum has really had a positive impact at all grade bands. And we feel like we're entering that time where we're starting to be able to really hone down in terms of scope and sequence, and which units really we need to hit on, and those that we don't. So that's been good work. Again, we're at that 112, basically where we want to be on that progress to annual typical growth. Next slide, please. Again, by grade band. Again, I love seeing those kindergarten numbers. And yeah, we can see what's happening there. Next slide, please.
Right to it. So this here is our SBAC results. We don't have our science in yet. That will trickle in over the summer and likely be available in the fall. So we have the state average listed next to our current scoring that came in this spring. And there is a little bit of disappointment with knowing that it's below the state average. But we also, with that information, wanted to dive deeper and look and see like what is going on. Is this the cohort? Is there anything that we need to look at specifically? We already know that our math is something we've been focusing this year on and improving our math instruction with the math audit that we did. There's a link there at the bottom that is a cohort trend data. So if you were to click on that, Christy, that will show the cohorts trend over time. And so you can see that pairs represent the average scale score. And so the 5th grade class in math and 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade, their scores are improving as we move forward in time. And that's the same for ELA. And that's the same with the 4th grade cohort class. The 3rd grade's not listed because it's not relevant. And then down below, just for the board's viewing, is what those scaled scores represent in the description. You can exit that, please. You can exit. Not the meeting, just and then Susie, did you want to speak to the math audit?
I think the board saw that earlier, so I think we're fine there.
Another thing that we're just taking a deep dive into the data, and we're looking at, is there any populations that are standing out? We already know that there's been extensive work done on special ed this year, looking for a special ed director and giving a lot of attention in that regard. And so we did look at the student population data for students with disabilities that have an IEP to see how they are performing compared to their peers. And we found a discrepancy there. So you'll see that link there as well.
Do you want to click on that, or are you fine with just saying it's up to you?
Yeah.
Sure, you can click on it.
Oh, he said we didn't need to.
Okay. Okay.
It's a discrepancy that you've spotted
Yes.
and that you're working on, and that having,
It's there.
and that
There it is.
having the special education director will assist with as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Here we are. Thank you so much.
So before, oh, go ahead. Did you want to say something?
I just wanted to say, as my last board meeting, thank you for supporting our schools, and my hope is that you continue to support elementary school and staffing in the way that we need to be staffed, which I know I have total faith in Dr. Clifford that will happen. I'm so grateful you're here with us, and it's really been an honor to work with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susie.
Thank you, Susie.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to thank both of your leadership and the work that you've done this year. Every single conversation we have has been instructionally focused. I know that we didn't earlier today, we spent a lot of time on the pre and post audit, and you gathered a great deal of information from your staff. It's so much really solid information that will help to tee up next year, but you also really took very intentional detail to find out where we're currently at the beginning of the year. You worked with your staff to get buy-in. You identified strengths and areas of opportunity that they had interest in, and you brought and matched PD. And I want to say that you have some remarkable growth, truly remarkable growth in the data that you shared. And we're really almost there for some of those scores. It takes time. It doesn't change overnight. And you have really just laid the foundation to launch the next step of the work. And this is the first year that we focused on math as a district, I think, in a while, right? In a while. So, you've always been focusing on these areas, but I just attribute the strong work that has been completed this year and what it's going to look like next year. We get to celebrate, and we'll be able to benefit from the outcomes that we see next year. And it's due to your leadership this year. Okay. So don't remember that and know that it doesn't change overnight. And cohort to cohort, things change. And Susie, I just have been really, really grateful to be able to have the opportunity to work with you. And I know that we're going to continue to work together.
Yes.
And I'm super excited about that in different ways.
And I just want to take a moment, and I'm not trying to think this is going to be a big ugly cry. But I just want to thank Susie for her leadership over the past few years, and certainly for tapping me on the shoulder in leadership. So I told her we're not even doing goodbyes. I'm just going to ghost her. It's going to be too hard, so it starts now. Thank you.
Sorry.
I think it's eminently reasonable to be emotional after a longest and distinguished career in not only education, but making the lives of South Whidbey children better. I know that my daughter has thrived in the school that you have led and formed and created, and thank you for that.
Okay, moving
on.
So some of the numbers that so I know that we talked about the discrepancy between the iReady numbers and the SBAC numbers and looking at some of the reasoning for that. And I'm just stating that now so the community can hear some of this discussion that we had, looking at trying to find out why there's a discrepancy between the growth we see in iReady and the scores that we would like to see higher on the SBAC. And I know that the team is, that you've set the table and the team is working on that right now.
Thank you.
Can I interject, community member? This is not goodbye. This is a different phase. What you've done and who you are is seen, and the kids love you to death. And I don't mean to make humor of it, but I think there's substitute positions open. But there's lots of opportunity, but you leave big shoes, and I'm looking at your feet. Big shoes to fill. So
Thank you, Quinty.
I appreciate you having a wonderful retirement.
Thank you.
Just as busy as you are now, just more.
Well, a couple things I would like to name that we saw today in our kind of deep dive, I should say, into the work is that one of the things that I've always enjoyed about you. So full disclosure, Susie was my first boss on the island 20 years ago. So I got to be under her mentorship, and you are a very, very lucky human to get to work alongside Susie. And one of the things I've always loved about your work is that you see every kid for who they are, and you see every grade cohort for who it is and what its dynamic is, and you support your teachers through, some of the hardest times. COVID, for example, we named that, the fourth grade this year were COVID kiddies, right? And so that influences how they learn now. And you have held them through that. So, and you have held your staff through that. So I just want to name that for the public record that like Wendy said, your work is seen, and the love you offer to this community is palpable. So thank you.
And Susie, I just want to thank you for how responsive you've been to just the needs of the community. You've known mine since he was 3 days old, and I couldn't drive myself to the board meeting. We had to make corn. I remember being on my way to drive. I was driving to Spokane. I went down a dog trail of what do you mean we don't have before and after care in our district? And I remember the phone call to you, and I was like, Susan. And now we have before and after care in our district. And I want to name, you have been an incredible partner and incredibly connected to the needs of the community and the buildings. I wish you nothing but relaxation and a good amount of time doing absolutely nothing.
A good amount of time doesn't mean a lot necessarily.
And when you choose to, you could take an afternoon to drive a bus, or
One thing I would never do.
and here the coffee room is a great place to be. But I know this isn't goodbye, and it will also be very different with you not being there. And Dylan also says that he says you're not allowed to retire.
I saw him in the grocery store with Megan, Rhea, and the kids today. This is
Well, plus one to what my board colleague said, and I also want to thank you for your leadership of the ALE program. Yeah, it really made a difference in my daughter's life, and I could see the huge difference it was making in the lives of her classmates and those who came before and after her. And then also with regards to the data presentation, I also want to thank you for being vulnerable enough to show data that you don't feel is up to the standards that you have for your building. And I think it takes a lot of vulnerability, and also I can see the work you're already doing to dig into that data, to scientifically figure out how to make it better for next year, and to be able to get the preview of that earlier today in the workshop or in the retreat was very, very helpful for me to be able to use that as input for the district goals. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. It's more than a number. Our students are more than a number, and this just described all of that you've given. You've given so much more. So, are we ready for the next transition? Okay.
Coming back. If you want that, shoot.
Just think of how many years you will have with my child before. Be able to say you've known him since he was 3 days old, staring at his hands.
So lefty.
I just have to interrupt for 2 seconds to say, I
No,
could not
please.
ask for colleagues to work with. Really, I love you all so very much, and thank you, thank you, thank you.
And you're leaving your school in very capable hands.
Right, yeah.
Okay, well, here we go. So I want you to know, full transparency, I always hated following you on presentations. Get these cute pictures of, here's mine. So basically what I have is I have 3 slides, basically showing some celebrations for each of the goals. The first goal we have is SEL, and something that really took off beyond my imagination is our Speak Up training program. And basically Speak Up is combating hate speech in schools, and it's a peer-to-peer interaction. And what was great is Dr. Clifford brought this program from Anacortes, came in, and we thought we were going to start it this year and just kind of get the groundwork and everything behind the scenes, get ready to go for year 2 to really get it going. And that didn't happen. We had 25 students who just took the ball and ran with it. And Kyla Stelling, who's our ethnic studies teacher, just pretty much took charge, organizing, setting everything up. It was great. So basically every student at our school had hate speech training, Speak Up training by their peers. And it was just great to see. And so real similar to the way we present it is real similar to our Forefront program for our suicide prevention. So again, when you get that peer-to-peer training, it's so much more effective than if I was to go up there or teachers. So first of all, thank you, Dr. Clifford, for doing that. I thought it was a great success, and we're going to keep going. It's just going to grow next year and evolve. So we're excited about that. For our staff, and also we're doing it at the middle school.
You've had the pilot, and we're going to be modeling.
Yeah, so it'll be a 6-12 program at least. The staff focus, Sarah Dominguez came in and talked about LSCI, really about those low-level tier 1, low-level maybe tier 2 interventions. And when things happen in your class, how do you react? And I think our staff loved it. I know the high school staff. We had one of our professional developments. Our teachers, one would be a teacher and the other would be a student. And it was hilarious, but spot on accurate about some of the situations and how do you manage those and how do you deal with it. And again, I want to keep that going.
Yeah, before you go on, can you define LSCI?
Okay.
It's for the public.
Life space crisis intervention.
There you go.
Nice.
Good job.
I always go LCSI or something.
Thank you.
Yep. Next slide, please. Our SBAC scores were pretty impressive. Our sophomores did a great job this year. Our ELA last year, our spring was 62%, 62.1% passed our ELA. This year we were at 81%. Washington State this year is 65%. So we're 16% over the state average in ELA, which is phenomenal. Math, again, great numbers. Last year we had 33.7% pass the SBAC, and it's a 1 to 4 scale. So threes and fours are considered passing. 2, 3, and 4 are considered foundational. That's why I added that up there too. Math 33.7% last year. Washington State this year 35%, and this spring we had 57%. So 22% higher than the state average, which I think is phenomenal. And I want you to think about our state test scores as a race. The high school is the end. We have to think about everybody that helps them along the way, the elementary, the middle school. So this isn't a celebration of the high school. This is a celebration of the district, everybody involved. This was a very high-performing cohort throughout the system since third grade. They have traditionally been above state test scores, so it's not a huge surprise. But I just want everybody to be aware, I shared this with the board, that all of us, we look at cohorts. We go back to third grade. What's their ELA? What's their math? What's their science? And so we can predict and hopefully put in some interventions along the way up there. We have no 11th grade spring science scores. Those separate tests that come out in fall, and we'll be above state average, I guarantee. Next slide, please. I'm not going to read any of this, but goal 3 basically really thought about construction facilities, remodel, what's taking place at the middle school, high school. And our staff and our kids were phenomenal. They're resilient, flexible. I'm just proud of them, and I think we should all let them know, hey, thank you. Next year, the middle school takes the brunt of the moves. I think we got it figured out. Did an amazing job. We moved 11 classrooms and the main office for the second time in 2 days. Phenomenal. And Paul Field, and I mean, it was all hands on deck, so that was great. But next year, again, we need to do more celebrations, more food. It sounds funny. More food, more bagels, more sheet cake, and have some time to celebrate, not just the staff, but also our kids, and just give them a break because there's a lot going on. So that is my end of the year report. Any questions?
I just really quickly want to thank Mr. Patton. One of the things, first of all, that you acknowledge that this is a collective effort. So Susie, look at those scores and reflect on your work and your leadership all the way through, Kayla and John. But also Mr. Patton, he does a lot of instructional leadership behind the scenes. And this shows he's intentional about his staffing, intentional about meeting with department leads. And so while it's a little bit behind the scenes, it's there, and it's very intentional, and you can see it through in our scores and how to create what he's doing to create the environment to support this in collaboration with Kayla. Everybody's in collaboration with Kayla and her Mrs. Phillips in her role as director of curriculum. I also appreciate all three of you, because you're right. The Speak Up training did become much bigger than it is expected, and it wasn't built. We didn't build it into our schedule in that way, and you had to be agile and create more space in our planning and our professional development than what was originally intended. And so I just really appreciate you creating the space and your commitment to it, and identifying the right people to be a part of that leadership to support the students and making that happen. And I look forward to the continued work and you all being a part of the cohort, because the cohort is we work with ESD because that's the next work, and that's was been a big commitment too. And the construction was huge. And so I'm grateful to you for the leadership that you've provided to the high school.
Yeah, seeing, despite the construction, the culmination of the year with graduation, celebrating those students and their accomplishments, both at the farewell assembly and at graduation itself, and celebrating the staff who have had so much impact on that success. At the end of a year, that was
interesting.
Complicated by logistics.
Yes.
Some firsts. It was very impressive, so thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I have a notice and wonder, and it's not a question that needs answering here. Well, first of all, you should be commended on the strong test scores. What I notice is that between the elementary math aspect and the high school math aspect, there's a 30 percentage point swing. And so are the students like getting caught up in middle and high school, or is the metric itself not reflecting the work that the elementary teachers and their students are putting in.
This-
Yeah, I don't need an answer right now. It's just a wonder. You can, I mean, feel free to comment, but I don't need an answer.
It's just a part of my narrative, but I always thought that a piece of it, and not qualitative, but it counts their sophomore year for
Mhm.
graduation. So ninth grade, they come in, our grades and everything, not that everything doesn't count before, but this counts towards graduation. If I don't pass this class, this test, I'm not gonna graduate. So I wonder how much of a motivator that is for our students. So, I don't have the answer.
This is 10th grade, right?
Yep.
10th grade, yeah.
Yeah. And I do want to mention that we talked about in the retreat that we talked about language heavy. Math is language heavy at the elementary level, and then you also mentioned in talking to your staff and your department.
Conversation this morning.
Yes, and when
Yep.
during the interviews that math is language heavy, and that math and reading and being really intentional about that, and that did come up. That came up in our next work, is how do we build in that academic math discourse and math language into our instruction in a little bit more depth. So, does anybody else want to celebrate and give feedback to high school?
I do have a couple questions and a couple wonders. Yes, I'm the critic, but I try to be constructive criticism. I know Susie was like, oh gosh. Couple things. Ms. Phillips and I noticed during one of your guys' last presentations, the cohorts, some of the numbers went down over the years. And these I'm seeing, so I'm a little confused by the difference in the mapping, if you will.
iReady versus SBAC.
Gotcha. And with that, with all the recent conversations around iReady, I'm curious to know if you guys have thought of another alternative, because I know there's some element in iReady that can actually really not present an individual's or a student's level because they get irritated with it, bored of it, and they just answer a question wrong and they know it changes the questions. So there's some questions around that element of testing altogether. I'm curious to know that. And the last thing, I hate comparing us to the state when the state numbers are so low. I think we really need to focus on just being better than we were last year or yesterday. Because when the state numbers are, like so low, I don't know.
I agree with a lot of that, but I suggest one change in what we're looking at to looking cohort strength, because some age groups are stronger academically than others. And so if we're just looking at, say, 11th grade SBAC scores year over year, that doesn't take into account the strengths of the classes. But
Yes.
but I agree that comparing the students to the students is more valuable than comparing the students to the state averages.
That's why I liked Miss Phillips' presentation she had, because it followed the cohorts and you could kind of see how they went from first grade to second grade to third. So it's the same group of kiddos. And that was more to me as a parent, like, okay, where are we dropping the ball? Where do we really need to focus? And like you said, during certain years, you really focus on certain things. Of course, we take that in there, but
Yeah, I agree that the cohort following is more valuable to me than compared to the state average. That's, in my view, that's table stakes. Like, we should be there, we should be beyond there. Let's see what we can do compared to what we've done in the past.
Yeah.
To your question or comment about iReady versus state testing, that's actually something we discussed in our goal setting, not to have a specific goal around that, but to consider and look at difference in format and what that means for difference in scores. Because there are some pretty solid discrepancies between the two different styles of testing, and also between what we see as parents and volunteers and educators. I know that there are students in the schools, I'm being very careful because yes, I'm referring to my daughter, who demonstrate the capability much higher than they test. And I know it's not just my child. But trying to figure out how to adequate or appropriately and accurately measure their standing and growth against that standing in a way that takes in the whole child more than reducing them down to a single number. That's more than a one-year project, but it is something we discussed during goal setting.
Yeah, I mean, with my kiddo in particular, when we were doing the testing when he first came into the district, you know, he was answering questions higher than he should have been. And we were all like, this is great. And then I asked the question stupidly, like, how long does this test go on? And she said, oh, pretty much till he gets a wrong answer. Well, the next question he answered wrong. So he wanted to end the testing too. So kids are they're taking it a lot, and a lot of the testing may not be a full representation of where they're at academically when they're frustrated with it, when it's not a really plausible tool. And with a lot of the conversations right now, I'm just hoping you guys are looking at that. I mean, we have, you know, other states that brought their scores up over 10 years. I mean, it wasn't overnight, really applying support and looking at different options and implementing curriculum. So yeah, so the difference is a little wavering, but it's definitely a wonder on my end.
Based on the conversations we've had at this table and previously, I have every confidence that the professional staff is looking at that type of thing.
Excellent.
I'm curious about the frequent use of percentages as opposed to numbers. I'm curious if the improvement in percentage represents all the students or just some of them. How many students are still stuck compared to the ones that are flourishing?
So some of those triangular, some of the triangular graphs that we saw with the red, yellow, green, that shows a lot of that. It shows what percentage of the class is still significantly behind or close to or at or above grade level for the end of year grade level. And so we do see some of that. And the reason, correct me if I'm wrong, professionals, the reason we use percentages rather than raw numbers is because the sizes of the class change. And so if we try to compare how many students are at a given point, class to class, that would change. Like, I'm going to use a hypothetical that's a little ridiculous, but if this is a class of 100 students and 50 of them pass, that's not, we like it to be higher than that. But if it's a class of 50 students and 50 pass, if we're looking at raw numbers, it looks exactly the same. But if we're looking at percentages, we can see where we need to put emphasis and work.
The kinds of stuff that I get in the news are that colleges are having a problem with students who are not prepared for technical stuff. They have to put them back in stupid study in college. So do we know how many of our kids in numbers and percentages, both at the same time, are taking advanced mathematics or are stuck with arithmetic?
Yes.
So
Yes. Yeah.
I would.
And are those numbers published so the public understands what we're getting?
I would turn it over to you for the answer, but I would first like to note, I do not appreciate the characterization of those remedial classes as you presented it. I don't.
I was talking about the college level, not here.
I know, but those students deserve the respect for the hard work that they put in as well.
Well, they also have to qualify.
I just wanted to make that statement. I'll turn it over to Dr. Clifford for the response to your question.
Yeah, so we are and if you want to add, you can, but we don't need, I'm going to answer really quickly. And then I want to make sure that we, for the purpose of this, number one, because of the amount of work that we had to do at the end of the year with moves and closing of the schools by yesterday, I specifically asked that we just do a very small presentation today. So I did not ask the staff to present a long, big presentation like they have done in the past. So that's one thing. one of the other things is that we just present the high level data because we need to preserve and protect the information of students, the privacy and information of students, and make sure that they are not identifiable. And this data shows high level data, but our teams work with their building leadership teams. They work with their department leads and their departments and their grade level teams to review the data. They identify and they know how many students are passing, how many students are failing, how many students are on track on grade level and who have to take classes again. And they are working to, that was part of the work of the math this year, as we identified that we were having a number of students that were coming in not ready in the way that we were hoping for into high school. And that was why we were focusing on math this year. And then the math department at the high school, we're looking at how do they support students in accelerating their skills if they're coming in with some skills that need to be built. So yes, they know each and every one of their students, and they know the students that are progressing and are on track or are already advanced. They also know the students that we need to build the gap for, and that we have opportunities to build their skills.
And in previous SIPS updates, we have looked at the number of students who are in advanced placement classes and similar things, both as a raw number and as a percentage.
Yeah.
I was happy to hear the population that you guys identified with students with IEPs or 504s and figuring out, okay, how do we come around them and support them and get those numbers up? Because I know my kiddo is just trying to figure out how to motivate him sometimes is half the battle. But also supporting him where he's at and getting him where he needs to be. So thank you.
Mr. Patton, Principal Patton, did you have anything else to add?
I was just going to say a long time ago, we used to, probably about 10 years ago, part of this SIP presentation is we would compare like districts. So some of those schools, our scores, some of those schools were Ridgefield, even Anacortes. Again, this is 10 years ago. They're a lot bigger than we are now. And some schools around, we used census information to compare districts. And I do every year make sure to look at Coupeville and Oak Harbor because we want to be the best on island. That's something I can share anytime too. And I look at Kamiak, so we do look at other schools and I do compare. And if the board would like us to compare to like districts, our scores, I'd be happy to do that again.
Thank you. Or anything else to add or to say to Mr. Patton, Principal Patton?
I was going to mention to Mr. Rose, you might be interested in looking on the high school website is the class schedule or the choice of classes that students can register for next year. And that will show how many students are taking higher level classes because of the number of classes in there. They're not going to have a class for one student. It'll be a class for a classroom of students.
Does that reflect the number of students who try to take more advanced math or just hold back and say, I've had enough, I don't want any more?
No, that's just the course offerings. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. We'll move to Principal Phillips.
Middle school, I'm going to again highlight our new crest. We spent a lot of time on this. I think I've talked about it, but I'm going to continue to do it. We worked really hard to integrate both the Falcon and the Orchid in there because we see ourselves as connections to both. We're kind of a bridge to that. So when our students and staff were looking at that, we thought that it was really important to us to represent ourselves as Cougars, but also know that within us, we have Orcas aiming for Falcons. Next slide, please. When they said what's new, I thought I'd bring it representation via images. That top left, these are fifth graders coming to their first round of orientation. So we had 3 opportunities, actually 4 because they voted for ASB last week. Fifth graders came to the middle school twice. We went down once and then they participated in voting for ASB officers. So this is giving students an idea and investment in what their elective rotations might look like as they enter middle school. So they came to band because that's a really popular and interesting elective, but it also has a lot of wonders about it. So they came into the band room and the current 6th grade band got to play for them, which was really exciting for the 6th graders because they're historically kind of the youngest cohort. So maybe not the one that always gets to step up when an opportunity arises. They got to ask questions about instruments, look at instruments, ask Ms. Balistrase questions, ask about field trips and opportunities that come with band. So that's a really exciting opportunity for them to get to come and do that. And then talking about options for how they can get access to instruments, whether it's through a rental or whether it's through school, and how we are going to support that. The top right was our career day. Ms. Grimm worked with a lot of community members and put all of this together. This was the second half of one of our SBAC days where students were really kind of mentally wiped out. So we took advantage of the day, and students were able to then input. Every student ranked types of classes or people that they wanted to meet and learn more about their career pathway. So then they got to rotate through 3 different career options to explore, ask questions. There was a lot of hands-on things, and then just exploration as to what kind of pathways might be accessible for them, where they sit today and what they might think about going into it. And it's not just, for example, I was in with one of our artists, they were talking about it's really amazing and fun to paint, and here's the product of my work, but behind the scenes, and talking about how math helped with taxes and how technology helped them to create a website, and how all the skills of all the classes they're in today help them and to be able to then go and do their passion of painting to then make a living. Bottom right is our first annual talent show cohort. We had a wide variety of talent. It opened with Miss Atwood. She was like a clown and kind of set the tone for what a talent show is. It should be fun and engaging and risky and enjoyable. Mr. Davis was our MC, and he set the tone as well with the idea that everyone deserves a standing ovation at some point in their life. So after every performance, the crowd just understood the assignment, stood up, applause, and a lot of love and support. And this picture was before the performance, and I was like trying to get a little something, and I very much understood that they were just ready for this thing to be moving forward. And I just really honored and valued these students' willingness to try out, bring their talents, bring friends, and we're going to perform in front of the entire school. This is a really vulnerable thing that we're going to do. And then to show up and do it. Bottom left, this was from our leadership class. We were celebrating our bus drivers on National Bus Driver Day. So when the buses came to pick up students that day, we had thank you signs and personalized signs. So helping our students recognize all the people that help make school happen, the roles they play and how important they are. That the first face you see, they're the last person you see before you step off the bus, and letting them know that we appreciate the work that they do. It's really exciting. Next slide. We're in the same, very similar format to the elementary school. iReady Math Diagnostic on the right. Fall on the left is our spring. This is math. So we're looking at green grew quite a bit. Tier 1, Tier 2 shrunk from 44 to 24. The at-risk students, Tier 3 from 30 to 20. So when we look at this, we look longitudinally at cohorts, but as well as students. So if I have a student who has been in that red or at-risk zone, we're looking as a team at what interventions or what programming or what have they qualified for them to continue to make progress toward their individual goal, whether they stay in the red or not, identifying how they're getting support so that they are continuing to make progress for themselves. Next slide, please. This is a snapshot or breakdown of the 4 main domains of math diagnostic over the year. You see that green growing and that red shrinking is our target and focus. Geometry has historically in middle school one of the slowest amounts to progress based off of the curriculum and scope and sequence. And then by high school, it starts to be more isolated and targeted. Our typical annual growth goal was 144%, which is fantastic for our cohort. We're looking at patterns and trends. So we're happy to see the majority or the median of students are making at least the growth that we anticipated for them for the year. Next slide, please. This is our reading diagnostic broken down by, this is math, broken down by cohort. So this is again what we're looking at, and we look back longitudinally at what were they scoring at in 3rd grade and where are they at now in 6th, 7th, or 8th. And despite 7th graders maybe having more students in an at-risk area, this has been a pattern or a trend that we have seen and anticipated and have supports in place. So this isn't a surprise to us. And we're still seeing individual progress and growth for students. Next slide. This is our reading diagnostic. I also wanted to point out that we were looking, Ms. Grimm and I were reflecting on the year. She's our amazing school counselor, and looking at how and when we look at our diagnostic windows, because we went from SBAC to our iReady diagnostics pretty quickly after. And so trying to help students help us understand how much they've grown and learned without burning them out on assessment. So there was a variable of that this spring, and our students and staff really pushed through and recognized the relevance to it, because we really work with students so they can see their data and see the growth in areas that they were focused on in the fall and where they've come till now. But trying to be more cognizant of that with our big picture planning for next year. Reading had a lot of growth. That tier 1 grew a lot, from 38 to 59%. That tier 2 shrunk a little bit. And again, our students at risk, looking at them to make sure that that number is reducing, and also looking at to make sure that those supports and students that are identifying in that at-risk area have interventions or have programming, so that they are getting the support they need to make their progress. Thank you. I sent this to our whole team because the growth median was really, really large this year, and I wanted them to celebrate that. And the reading diagnostic is really representative of all classrooms, because in PE they're talking about informational text, and there's vocabulary that they're learning that is rooted in the reading diagnostic. Science plays such a huge role both in informational as well as math. Social studies focuses a lot in all of these and brings it together in an analytical way. So a lot of our staff focus on iReady, and not just our ELA or math teachers. So this is a celebration of all of our staff working together to increase student literacy. And that 225% typical median growth is a celebration that I wanted them to see and know that their work with our students is clearly paying off. Next slide, please. Again, breakdown by cohort. We're seeing a lot of growth and closing those gaps and reducing those at risk or those students below grade level. I was mentioning this 8th grade cohort going into high school is an exceptionally strong academic and social cohort that I think the high school is very excited to welcome onto campus, and are very ready for the challenges of high school. And we're very ready for the 5th graders coming our way as well. Next slide, please. Again, we don't have science yet. That'll trickle in later in the fall. So when we get those, we'll share them with you. Same format, ELA 6th, 7th, and 8th. Everywhere but 7th grade ELA, we were above the state average by at least a few percentage points. So our staff recognize that we still have area to grow. And compared to the state average, we're seeing that our students are succeeding. And the percentage rate is level 3 or 4. We were talking about because high school does that foundational 2+. That student who is 2 to 3%.
I didn't do that.
The state got it to the group. But looking at so you get the snapshot, and then you get the breakdown by cohort, and then you get the student score, and then you get to dig further and further into that to look at where students perform well or areas that they need, and just always looking at it's just this hard line of 4 or 5 points difference between proficiency and basic. And again, it's not the student as a whole, it's a snapshot of their academic skill set in that moment, and always an opportunity for us to take that information to help make informed choices, so how we help our students improve. And I think
before we move on to the next thing, I just wanted to also give deep appreciation for Mrs. Phillips for the work that she's done, not only as a principal, but as being a director of special ed this year, and director of curriculum. It was a big undertaking, and you've done a great job. And you've balanced instructional leadership with your building leadership team and your department leads and your staff meetings, while also making sure that there's still joy and fun as being in that middle ground of bringing students in from the elementary and then up through the high school. And so I'm, before you go into the restraint and isolation, which is the last thing, I am just extremely, yeah, you're going to be right after this. Yeah.
Why am I here?
I know. I'm teeing you up in a moment. I'm just extremely proud of your instructional leadership. And I'm honored. It's been an honor to work with each of you this year. And we're going to talk about athletics in a moment. So we'll get to do all the kudos to that in a moment. But so I just thank each of you for the work that you've done. There's so much more that is not being presented today, but we really did want to be mindful of the mountains that you moved in the last 2 weeks of school, and quite frankly, the last 2 days of school, not student school, but staff school. while still making sure that it was a strong end to student school year. And so thank you so much for everything that you have done this year and for working alongside of me. So last thing to round out this is our eliminating isolation grant. Do you want? Yeah.
Kind of tag team it.
Yeah.
Dr. Clifford kind of brought this to my attention, and Angie Hudkins, who works in special education, works incredibly hard. Because we're looking at our data of restraint and isolation with students. And the goal, working with LSCI and a lot of programming, is always to that be our last line of defense when it comes to helping students who are dysregulated. So she said, hey, we're doing this grant. We locked in. And so there's a lot of effort and behind the scenes paperwork and documentation and supports that go into it. And then the big component is working with, we worked with who's called Continua Consulting. They came and they worked with our teams. They were in classrooms. They were tracking data. They were working on training plans, talking about supporting students with behavioral needs or who are dysregulated in order to reduce or eliminate the needs for restraint or isolation. And we learned a lot and looking at types of programming and what we do as adults and how we support our students has been kind of the thread through all of our trainings when it comes to supporting students and what a regulated adult and how we can strategize to support kids. So they had trainings throughout the year. They came on campus. We had Zooms as an admin, and then they came on campus, worked with all staff and our paraeducators. There are a lot of times our paraeducators are on the front line working with students. And so building their toolbox full of skills and strategies to support our students so that the safety of students and staff is always our first, is our most important task.
And since it was focused at the elementary level, do you want to add anything? You were able to participate in a rubric too?
So what was nice about that is that even though reducing restraint and isolation is typically behaviors that we'd see at the 3 or 4 tier level, they're also able to look at tier 1 school-wide practices that maybe might lead to some situations. And so looking at our overall school entry, lunches, playground, transitions, where usually you have those most behaviors, and just offering some observation and then looking at that with us through a rubric that was, I thought, really insightful, where we self-scored ourselves and then they presented their information and looked for opportunities where we can improve in certain areas.
And celebrations.
And lots of celebrations, honestly. Yeah. That was what was really great about it, because it can be a little vulnerable to like, come on, observe us and then tell us what we're doing wrong. But it was actually like, hey, here's all the great work you've been doing. And it really fed off of the work that we did with LSCI and then the restorative conversations that we've had with the trainings over the years. So it was just nice to build on that and then bring it all together in one rubric and see how we're doing and identify some areas where we can continue to improve. And
yeah, I think it'll be really helpful for Ms. Young and the BLT next year to give us some really focused areas that fall within the goals that we're establishing.
And then finally, we're going to be able to leverage this grant to support a leadership retreat. We'll have 2 new folks, our director of special ed and our new principal at the elementary school. And so we'll all come together as a leadership team, and part of our teaming will be integrating critical components of the research that's coming from the RREI grant. And just building our social emotional and our capacity as our culture around engaging with staff and engaging with students around social emotional behaviors and supports. So I'm looking forward to integrating those into our leadership team retreat at the end of this month.
Can I ask a question? This area, when I was a para sub for a very short period of time, I was volunteering, or not just volunteering, I was paid staff. They actually paid me. When I was in the classroom, I'm going to call it the behavioral classroom because it had a lot of negative connotations on it. It was Luke's room. Absolutely loved working in that room. Those kids were amazing. What frustrated me, and one of the reasons why I stepped down from that position, was I was just a para sub and they wouldn't give me the right response training. And when a student is having a hard time regulating and you don't have the right response training, you're basically useless in that room. And I brought it to the attention of multiple people, and they said, we don't give that training to subs. And I said, well, you're putting me at risk, putting the student at risk, and you're putting the district at risk. So if it's like a $100, $200 training, you get sued, it's a lot more than that. And I would really love to see some of this go towards that I was in that room almost daily for a period of time.
Great idea.
And there were many times where I basically had to like hide in a room and pretend like I was invisible. And I've done de-escalation training and everything. So I understand how to approach. But because I didn't have that training, that really put everyone at risk. And as a district, I think that was a huge issue. And I spoke with HR and I spoke with teacher in the Luke and but I said I can no longer put the district in that position. But it was an amazing group of kids and I probably would still be there today. But I was just a para sub. And so hopefully you can use some of this funding because if you put paras in there that don't have the training, it's just not worth it at the end of the day.
When it comes to our right response training, we do, if we have parent substitutes, we know are often frequently on campus, we offer it to them. And they have to be the initial one and then the renewal. So we have had people who we often see as subs, we offer them the opportunity.
Yeah.
And that was a change 2 or 3 years ago, I think.
Yeah. Prior to, because we see a lot of people and there's opportunities for someone to step out for professional development or something else. So we tend to know our sub pools pretty well and who's pretty consistent and where they're willing to work. And so when it works for schedules and their interest.
Yeah, I tried to get the training through parent to parent because they had free training and then COVID hit and then the whole world shut down. But yeah, I think that's huge because not just to have the training, but to understand how to approach because it's a completely different approach.
Absolutely.
We're not here to discipline students, but try to support them where they're at and then help them.
Yeah.
Regulation ability.
So all of the right response, any fees and costs associated with the right response this year was applied to this. And thank you for confirming that we have been inviting para subs who are consistent subs because that was new learning for me. And thank you for the suggestion. I'm glad we're already doing it. So
And we've hired a few of them on.
And we look and yeah. And I was just gonna say, we look forward to getting this funding again, and then we'll make sure that we build those systems in place again.
I just want an overall comment. First of all, I hadn't made the connection that cougars are a land animal between the sea and the sky. I went to school here. I never made that connection. Yeah, like.
Yeah, it's all right.
Everything just shattered. That's awesome. And the seal is a great reminder of that. And Mr. Patton, to your point of this being a marathon rather than a sprint, I love seeing the build of all of those foundational lessons maturing as the students do and as they grow into themselves and coming out with fantastic outcomes that we've seen at graduation and the farewell assembly and all of those sort of things. So, just an acknowledgement of that growth trajectory and a great metaphor to go on.
And I did move right into this without giving you an opportunity to give feedback to Kayla. I'm Miss Phillips, Principal Phillips. So if you have anything that you want to share, I know you all gave them lots of feedback during our retreat earlier today, but anything you want to add? Okay.
I think just the one noticing that I want to have is I have had the pleasure to work under you, Dr. Clifford, in years ago. And I have always maintained that the team that I worked under you, Everett, was by far the most highly functioning, wonderful team to work on. And what I loved about that team was we all supported each other. We could plug and play and just, it was really like an incredible team experience. And I am heartened to hear the same conversations that we had on that team with this administrative team. And it's not very often that you can put 3 principals in the room and they give each other credit for some of the things. And so I just wanted to just name that of, I see a really strong team. Not that you all weren't a team before, but I see you all showing up very differently this year, and it's noticed.
I inherited it and they're just showing up. But thank you.
The next and last item on the agenda for tonight is the Policy 2151, the interscholastic activities, the annual report. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Clifford first.
So I just want to appreciate Mr. Summers for his work of making sure that there's so much planning that goes along with our athletics and activities, making sure that our schedules are in order, making sure that we have coaches, making sure that that things go smoothly, responding and changing, especially with the moves and the campus closures and the track and field work. You have made sure that that students will still get to be able to participate and engage in sports and athletics and activities. And so I greatly appreciate your leadership in that. And so I'm looking forward to your report tonight.
Well, thank you, Dr. Clifford.
You had it up and then.
Yeah, you know what?
Very short.
I'll say this is the funnest one to give, because we've got a few percentages up there. But if I've got a losing season and I got data I don't like, no one's gonna know that I didn't.
We'll change the date for you.
Oh.
All right, next slide, please. So this is gonna cover both the middle school and the high school. I know that there's some clubs and stuff down at the elementary school, but it doesn't fall under my purview. And so this is our different athletic opportunities at the high school. And there's an error on here. Boys golf is now been moved to the fall. So we play in an alternate season. The league was kind of split. There were 8 teams that had boys golf. 5 were already playing in the fall, 3 were playing in the spring, and we were one of the ones that played in the spring. One of the other teams left for the fall, and so the other 2 kind of had to follow. Otherwise, we weren't going to have much of a season. So other than that, everything is pretty much remained the same. We've had enough turnout to maintain all of these teams. We did our participation survey this year to find out if we're offering the right things, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but we did look at that this year. Next slide, please. So here's our athletic participation. So in a shift from last year, we have, I don't know why that slide is coming out funny,
Yeah, it's
but
weird, huh?
it's okay. We had, now, one thing about these numbers, so it says that we had 237 athletes. That doesn't necessarily mean that we have over 50% of the population in the school participating in athletics. It's hard to tease out that data. So if somebody played 3 sports, they're represented 3 times there. But as you can see, we have significantly higher participation in girls than we do in boys. And that came out of the Title IX work that I did a week ago, which is great. So we actually have to do what I think most districts are not in a position of doing, and figuring out how we need to increase participation of our young men.
Which is news to us.
Yes, it's not what I was expecting.
Really good.
Not what I was expecting. And then the one that's shaped like a donut there, this is male and female. That is our coaches. So while we're not an even split, I think that's significantly more, equitable is the right term, but even, I would say, than you would find in most districts. And there's, I think, a lot of reasons for that, but I think that if you just look around here, we have a lot of strong female athletic leaders, and you can see that in our student body as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so 50% of our McKinney-Vento students participate in athletics. All right, and 43% of our free and reduced students. That 50%, so that means that we have a higher percentage of our McKinney-Vento folks participate, or students who qualify McKinney-Vento participating in athletics than we do our non-McKinney-Vento students, which I think is really awesome. And that comes from the work of Ms. Johnson, the work of the Readiness to Learn staff, and really our ASB, and them getting out the message of the ramifications of House Bill 1660. And so our students who qualify for free and reduced lunch or who are McKinney-Vento are not required to pay fees to participate in sport. And we've developed a pretty good relationship with Readiness to Learn. So if we have students who don't have cleats, don't have wrestling shoes, can't get a mouth guard, if it's not something that the school regularly provides, then Mary Mitchell will find it for us. And so there's never, the reason a student can't participate or doesn't participate in athletics is never because of money. And high school could be a little bit different. They might need to work, but never because they can't provide something. And then just a note, the ASB, this is total, but grade 6 through 12. Because of House Bill 1660, we had a delta of about $14,000 that we covered as a district, $14,000 of athletic participation fees for our student athletes. Wow. It's like this. So participation. So we did our participation survey this year, and that's a requirement through WIA that we need to do every 2 years. And it really asks what are you participating in? What is there out there that you would like to participate in that is not offered? And really, what are the barriers to entry into not just the sport that you want, but any of the sports that you want? We do see at least a decent amount of interest right now in the new WIA sport of girls flag football. I think we're at the point right now where we're looking more as a club to see if we can get sustained participation, because there is a monetary buy-in for the school. It's not huge, but there is. Most of the activities that students said that they wanted to participate in are just not WIA. There's no WIA archery or horseback riding, badminton. One of the ones that actually had a strong following, we just can't really do here on the South End, was bowling. I just think it would be too much of a haul to try and get kids up to Oak Harbor to bowl. But that would be really that and flag football were the only ones that we could offer that we aren't currently offering. When we asked the questions about barriers to entry, there were a couple of folks, to be honest, that were just, I don't like the binary system of gender that WIA offers in sports. That's not something we can change. I don't like sports, or whatever. But the biggest barriers, the major reasons, were just a general lack of interest in sports. Busy doing other activities after school. So if we're not going to offer horse riding and you really love horse riding, you're going to stay doing that after school with your group. Drama was another big one that a lot of the kids, it's actually the biggest one of kids were like, I'm not participating in athletics because I do drama after school, right? Which, it could be, I think really could be considered with our partnership down there almost an interscholastic sport, because it's so many of our students.
Yeah.
And honestly, a lot of kids need to work, right? Or there's a perception that they need to work, or they value things that they want to have. And so they're making that informed choice to participate in work versus athletics. So what that tells me is that we're doing a good job of reaching out and bringing in the athletes, those students who want to be student athletes. We are removing any of their barriers to entry that we can, and offering the correct amount and type of activities for our students to be involved in. Slide, please. All right, so our accomplishments. Cross country this year, we had 2 state placers. And Reed Atwood, I'm going to say, won her first state championship of the year. Okay. I really want to celebrate boys swim. We've never had a pool, and so any of our swimmers have had to go off island in order to compete, which means that they need to get themselves on a ferry every day. That means that our counseling staff needs to make sure that their schedules are open so that they can leave. And that's for both boys and girls. We just had the boys happen to really come out this year. They've got to manage all that on their own, on top of, and then getting back late on the ferry. So it takes a lot. And so Jack Hempel this year, I just did his Wall of Fame ceremony. I think he is a 6-time state medaler, with 2 state championships this year in both the 50 and the 100 freestyle. For a school that doesn't have a pool, to have multiple state champions is really something to celebrate. Our young lady swimmers did excellent this year as well. We had a senior and a sophomore coming in, so we look to build those programs. And I'm hoping that I've already been working with the swim club and some of their leadership, and there are some folks that are ready to come in and help us run our own program when we have the facilities to do that.
And we can see the progress on
Yes.
this.
Number of times I've had to tell people the difference between the speed of new construction and remodeling. It doesn't matter how big the building is. There's a reason why it looks like there's so much more work being done. But if you were there every day, you would see just how much work we've had to accomplish.
Framing and sheathing always goes fast.
Yes. Track and field was our big win. I mean, it's our cross country and our track and field are really our signature programs. And so I just want to give shouts out to both the coaches from the cross country and the track team we have. It is not just a great team, it is a great program. And that takes a lot of dedication from the adults in the We had 22 competitors at the state track and field meet this year. We sent 25 kids, but 22 of them competed. The girls overall took 5th place. 6 medals, 3 state championships, and 1 second place. So that was Reed Atwood's 2nd, 3rd, and 4th state championship for the year. As a sophomore. And she won 1 last year, so she is a sophomore. She finished her sophomore year with 5 state championships. She's well on track to being, I'd have to go back and look at it, but I would wager a little bit of money that will be the most accomplished female athlete in Southwick history, quite possibly the most accomplished athlete in general. I just know I've looked at a lot of the female stuff to see where she's at, and I know that she's well beyond anybody. And the boys took 3rd overall with 8 medals. 1 state champion and 2 second place. And so that's Bryson Taylor. He's a state champion in the triple jump this year. Last year he won the high jump, and this year he was also 2nd in the long jump. The only people that were close to him were seniors. He's a junior, so we're looking at a possible three state championships for him next year. We also added 6 new athletes to the Wall of Fame this year, and we were able to celebrate 2 of our athletes were WA Athlete of the Week this year. You guys got to hear about one of them at the farewell assembly in Stell Torso. Slide, please. All right, so our scholars. Okay, so this is actually, I'm really proud of this actually. So we have 22 varsity level teams, okay, typo there. 19 of them earned the Scholastic Awards for having a GPA of 3.0 or higher, and 6 had an overall team GPA of 3.5 or higher. And then 10 of our JV teams also earned the same Scholastic Award for a GPA of 3.0 or higher. So not only are we doing really well on the track, we're also doing really well in the classroom. In fact, if I always put the GPAs up of the athletes that get inducted into the Wall of Fame, that's usually a small private ceremony. And I think that the lowest overall high school GPA of any of the 6 athletes we put into the Wall of Fame was 3.65. So that just tells you the kind of humans that we're producing. Slide please. All right, and these are the current clubs that I am tracking. Transparency, this is probably an area that I can do better in understanding what all of these clubs are doing and be able to give you a better report on how they are involved. I just know because we've really been doing a lot with the Climate Action Committee this year, and I know that the Ecology Club has been involved in that. And so I do know that they've been doing quite a bit of work. And Homework Club, that's my favorite club. Because not everybody that goes to Homework Club joined on their own. Some were voluntold. Slide, please. Okay. We graduated a great executive team this year, but we have a really great executive ASB leadership team coming in next year. And I'm really excited about that and what they're going to be doing. Did put all the numbers up here, but I can tell you after discussing with Mr. Field and Ms. Johnson, the high school ASB spent about the same amount of money that they had coming in this year, which is great. That's how it's supposed to be, right? That we shouldn't be. That leaves us with a fund balance of extra, which we're probably going to need next year because we're not going to have a football game. But looking at the numbers with Paul, we will be fine. Even if we didn't take in another dollar, we would be okay to spend the same amount next year as we did this year. It would be 27, 28 when there would be an issue. And that's a discussion with myself, Hibb, and the school board as far as how we rectify that if we find ourselves in that situation. We're managing that, and we're looking at ways to kind of increase revenue in other ways since we're losing that. Yes, to do And as always, the ASB really did this year. They continue to purchase athletic equipment, funding school dances, senior week activities, assemblies, and then field day. Slide, please. All right, Cougar Athletics. No changes here. Still have the 4 seasons, and we are actually at a point where we're going to probably have to start limiting our participation numbers just due to space. And coach availability. So we've really kind of, coming out of COVID, we had some really low numbers on some of our winter teams specifically, but we're starting to see that really bounce back. In fact, I think this year we actually had to, even though we had 3 boys basketball teams, we were not able to facilitate everybody that came out being able to play. And so we've looked at a lot of different options about how we might handle that. I just with the limitations of space, I think that's probably where we're going to have to be. But I will note that our former coach, former boys basketball coach Kevin, and his putting together of the local Swish League for basketball, a lot of our middle school ladies going to play club volleyball, Southwood BU Soccer Club. We don't just have Little League anymore. We also have Southwood BU Baseball Club. And they all kind of, in partnership with us, use our spaces. So they are kind of focusing on that 5th grade and below to be able to provide those, and even 6th grade and below, because we don't allow 6th graders all the time to participate. And so because of those things coming back online after COVID, I feel confident that our young people still have the opportunity to get to know the sport, so that when they get to middle school and high school, they're feeling like they have a good understanding of what they're supposed to be doing. Slide, please. So this is our Cougar athletic participation. We are slightly even here, but again, we have more of our young women participating in athletics than our young men. I don't think we have as much work here just because of the smaller delta to figure out how we increase participation. Part of this is that the main sport in the fall for boys is football, and 6th graders are ineligible for football, and that's a state rule, not a Southwood BU School District rule. And so that is one of the reasons. We also have more offerings for our Cougar girls than we do for our Cougar boys. So there's one additional sport that we offer for girls because football and wrestling are both co-ed. We have girls soccer, we don't have boys soccer. Slide, please. So again, really strong numbers. 50% McKinney-Vento and 57% of our free and reduced middle school athletes participate in athletics, which is really, really high. That's not a data point that I've seen any other school district collect. And outside of Granite Falls, none of the other teams, none of my peers within our league, they're all private schools, and so they're collecting different types of data. Much different. So I'll just leave it there. And then on the previous slide, you don't need to go back, but for the high school, I had the percentage of coaches that were male and female. That is 6-12. So that is middle school and high school. So I didn't provide additional information. Slide, please. All right, our Cougar ASB is super active this year. So once I get off my rear end and get Kimmy the sizes, then we will be ordering middle school football uniforms. And then at that point, all of our middle school teams will have had new uniforms purchased within the last 2 years. While it's not necessarily ASB, it's a little bit different. I do want to call out that our leadership class is pretty entwined, just like at the high school, to our ASB. And if you spent any time in the school this year, you know that our new leadership teacher, Chris Broderick, has taken that program to really a new height. I could not produce posters as nice as our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are producing. It's crazy.
You might think it sounds funny, but posters are a big deal. So the high quality that Chris and his leadership middle school did, it was
Kind of anti-lamination, but there's a couple I was like, can we laminate? But student ownership too. Like they were researching quotes they thought would be relevant to the time of the year or what was happening and how they thought they could inclusive ideas or concepts that they wanted to see represented, and also keeping us abreast of the memes and humor of teens and twins.
I was gonna say you better walk around with your cell phone because you're gonna have to pull up your phone and Google what it is. I mean, there was a poster when they were talking about doing track signups, and they took and made 3D hurdles that came off of the paper and sign up. It was really good. We had. What's that?
Can't laminate that.
No, you can't. And similar to other years, right? We had 2 dances. We had our Harvest Hangout this year, and then I know Ms. Phillips talked about it, but our new talent show. That was incredible.
You all need to go next year.
There is it, and I think if you just came in off the street, you would have been amazed. But to know the history of some of the students that participated and just went up there and let it all hang out, that was the special part for me. And as in similar years, middle school ASB continues to add to their fund balance. So they added an additional $7,000 this year on top of what they spent. I know Ms. Phillips and Mr. Field and I are looking at some creative ways to change that, and maybe we hire some more coaches at the middle school level, but then use ASB money in order to fund those positions so that we can offer, if we have space, more students or a better experience for the students that are there. Because 30 kids for 2 coaches is tough. Slide, please. Okay, facilities. New gym has been awesome. I offhand remembered about 3 months ago that they owed us a big white SW on the new bleachers. And so that got installed at the end of the year. And then Jeff's team is already getting set to refinish that gym this year. We really need the Ox gym done. But because of roof construction, his team's not going to be able to get in there to do that. And then work has begun on the new stadium field and our track. If you haven't been out there, they move a lot of dirt.
Very large holes.
Very large mold.
I want to clarify, haven't been out there means looking through the fence. It's close.
Yes. Go around to the park, walk along the trail, come in by the garden, and then you can get a really good look down at the mall. And work is, and we expect that to be open for spring track. Slide, please. All right, I'm bringing in an old Navy Marine Corps tradition of doing a hail and farewell. Okay, so this year we said farewell to our longtime coach, Tom Fallon, baseball coach. He has been a Falcon for 42 years, to include when that's when he started playing. He played in the first game on the new field down there. So he played high school baseball games over there where we park for the fair. We also said farewell to Luke Hodson as our football coach. And I just found out a couple days ago, Megan Lubach, our longtime assistant volleyball coach, her and Mandy have been coaching for 23 years together here at South Whitby. Her son is going to be a junior this year, and she's going to take the opportunity to go watch him play some tennis. And then we hailed in Chase Bartlett as our new head football coach, and he and I are in the process of building him a staff. And then Josh Coleman shifted from being the head boys basketball coach to being the head girls basketball coach, allowing his former assistant Jonathan Britz to come in and take over as the boys coach. And both of our basketball teams had really incredible seasons this year. And then Nate Welliver, who was my longtime assistant in wrestling, took over as the head coach of the wrestling program.
So
I'm still here though.
okay. I mean, in that role.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I left.
Sorry.
And then we also said farewell to Ann Madsen as our head volleyball coach. And then we brought in Melissa Field to lead that program. And I'm really excited to see where that goes. And then she and I are going to work on finding her an assistant as well. Next slide, please. Our partnerships. I really want to call out Win. We partnered with them this year, and they started providing healthy snacks for our athletes. So we identified that, it's one thing if you come and you stop at McDonald's once or twice. I've been a head coach for a long time, and there's always 3 or 4 kids that don't have some money, and it's not a problem but what you don't see is like the pregame. You don't see because you don't want to be in the back of the bus while you're traveling, and so you don't see the kids that are sitting back there and not being able to eat anything before the game or the match. And so what they've done is basically said which coaches want to be involved, how many athletes do you have, and then they work with Ms. Johnson and I to figure out their schedules, and then there's a big box of snacks that comes in. They provided snacks for our track team, and there's 90 kids on the track team. So that went really, really well, and I think that is a program we're going to continue into the fall next year, make it a year-round thing. Our amazing Booster Club continues to provide a high level of support. So if you'll notice that our high school is not running around in uniforms that are 20 years old, that is because the Booster Club has purchased them. We've kind of ironed out how that relationship works to make sure that the money is flowing through the ASD versus going specifically for uniforms and equipment versus going to the teams. Just that's an insurance issue and a collection issue at the end of the year. But just into ASB accounts this year, they contributed $11,341. So that's for uniforms. They bought that new scores table that you see at volleyball and basketball games.
Sorry to interrupt, and $20K for senior scholarships.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And then I've been working with the new owners of the grocery outlet, and we gave them permission to use our Cougar and our Falcon on their mural. And so if you're in there shopping, you should see somewhere one of the many, the new drawings that we gave them for our logos. So
Land and sea.
yes, evidently that's a thing that they do in all the communities they go to.
In an air.
Because they do a mural.
Yep.
There. Sorry,
And then they are
I meant to
also
say
donating some land.
Yes.
So that's a,
Excellent.
yeah.
Both through the district, which I know I sent them down to talk to you guys, and then there's also going to be an athletic donation as well.
Yep.
Okay, slide please. Okay, so some updates. As you all know, we purchased the InTouch software last year, and that has been going swimmingly. I just want to give a big shout out to Ms. Kimmy Johnson. And I know Mr. Field's not here, but he and I talked a couple days ago, and he wanted me to express just the level. I don't think anybody outside of him really understands the amount of work that she's done to get this program off the ground. It has been incredible. She's done that while also being the amazing athletic and ASB secretary that she is, making sure that my mistakes don't get noticed. And it has what we're trying to figure out right now is to look at and see if we can figure out on a year-to-year basis, year-over-year basis, how many more athletic fees do we collect? Because parents can now just go online and pay it from home. Dance tickets, book fees, all that kind of stuff. I mean, the number of parents and grandparents I saw at her window this year paying off $600 in fines that have accumulated over, many years because we didn't have a great way of letting families know what they owed. So she has the ability to go out and send out those notifications now. But this is really just to say that she's been doing an amazing job at that.
I just want to add, not only is she doing this, but anywhere that we've been able to launch InTouch, because it's been such a successful and easy system to use, she's been right there to support. So with the Harvest Feast, she helped with that. Our food, our farm, I'm calling it farm stand. I think I was going to say farmers market, farm stand, our little mini farmers market. We converted that to InTouch, and she helped to set that up. So anytime InTouch makes the most sense, she has been a great partner and leading the way in that. And so it's been a humongous undertaking, and it would not have been successful without.
She's incredible. All right, the next slide I think is my last slide. So construction updates. Just so you all know how we are working through this. So obviously all the campuses are shut down. So football continues to practice on the practice field. They just have to enter from the community park trail. But then they're doing all of their strength and conditioning. So is volleyball, basketball, and wrestling. They're all doing that at the CrossFit gym down here in the community center. We will have all away football games next year. Okay. Minus our week 5. It's our homecoming week game. We are not necessarily calling it our homecoming game. It's going to be on Saturday at noon up at Oak Harbor Stadium. Homecoming will be a volleyball game this year.
Nice. I like it.
So it'll actually offers more time because there's a 20-minute limit, WIA limit for halftime for homecoming. So we can run it in between the varsity and JV games. And so we will do I don't really know what you call it anymore, but I call it a coronation ceremony. We will do that at a volleyball game in the gym. And then the next day we will play school football.
That's fantastic.
So I think Mandy's very excited to host that. I think it's going to be really neat. All of our girls, I'm sorry.
I love that. That's a fantastic solution.
All of our girls' soccer games are going to be played up at Castle Park. And then, as I alluded to it earlier, we're going to lose quite a bit of money in ASB from football gates. And so Paul and I are just kind of working to manage that and make sure that the kids understand, and that I think it would be a great opportunity for them to manage their money, because they're going to be forced to do. And then really working with Booster Club, the same thing, because they're going to lose considerable concessions next year, and making sure that they understand what that looks like.
And they'll double their things the fall.
Yeah, because all of our sports, especially football, get scheduled in 2-year cycles. And so it's a home one way and away the next year, especially for your non-leagues of football. It's just a different beast. And so we should have a full 8 to 9 home games the following year. So it should be Friday Night Lights every Friday night.
Get to show off the new.
Yes.
Yeah. That's great too.
Questions for me?
That's it.
I don't, no questions, but I just want to thank you and give you huge kudos for running such a successful athletic program, and fostering just such an amazing cohort of well-rounded student athletes. I really appreciate it.
I love to see all the collaborations with community partners, like WIN, that's an amazing solution.
For us this year.
And then the McKinney-Vento numbers just make me really happy, and the free and reduced numbers, that's absolutely fantastic that kids are not being turned away because of finances.
Great, thank you.
+1 to that in particular. Yeah.
I just want to say, I think a lot of people don't realize is I'm very appreciative of John because I know things are taken care of with athletics. It's a huge piece. And if athletics go sideways in high school, there's issues. It can grow and get bigger. So I appreciate that. But what people don't realize is he has a job. He has 2 jobs. He shows up at work in the morning, at school during school time. He's, I think, 5, maybe 6 times a week at the school till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. He lives at the school. You think about it. How many middle school and high school activities do we have in the evening? Every athletic contest we have, he's there. And that is a huge sacrifice. And I know what that entails. So I just hope that everybody recognizes the time involved too. And I appreciate it.
Well, I feel a lot of student athletes don't often forget that you're a student first. And coming from Mr. Sommer with a student who often see him as a coach as well, so having a lens of respect in that world and emphasizing the work of a student in order to be eligible to be an athlete is something that's been just thematic throughout this year. The students recognize the importance of academics in order to do the thing that I enjoy. That's just been a really powerful message that our students have really heard and move forward in homework club or whatever they need to do in order to be eligible to play.
I wanted to, if I could real quick, just add another hat that John wears as our safety director. And he has been such great support to the elementary school. He comes at a moment's notice when we need him for whatever is happening, and just really grateful to you too. John, thank you.
I realized I did actually have a question.
Yes.
You said we had 6 people going on the 6 student athletes going
Yes.
on the world. What's an average year?
I've done it twice now. And last year was 5 and this year was 6. So that's about, looking at and this is anecdotal, but looking at the wall, we have a significantly higher number of athletes going up now. Like we're hitting our stride. We've got some pretty solid individual sport athletes right now. Our sports we're coming up, but on the individual level, we are pretty incredible.
I'll also echo maybe why you have such strong individual athletes, because most students are playing team sports as well, and then they go to track or swim and are competing in that, but also find value in their team. So I think they see themselves more well-rounded versus that one-off athlete.
And if I may add, the amount of parent support we have in our district is amazing. You think that nobody shows up for their kiddos, just show up at any sporting event and you will see people show up. So that always makes me happy to see.
Echo that and expand it to any school event. Those concerts or plays or everything that happens, huge community support for all of that.
I'm just impressed at our littles that the families go to all the practices and it's just like standard. It's standard. So, yeah.
Okay. Any further comments or questions on this presentation or anything else on the agenda?
Do we need to do a first reading of the district goals tonight?
No, because it's not policy. It doesn't technically need 2 readings.
Oh, that's right.
Yep. So we'll be discussing those
Yeah, it's at the business meeting.
Yep. At the business meeting next week.
Sounds good.
Okay. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.